Hello, I'm Tony Dean, inviting you to join us this weekend as we go walleye fishing with a man who's trying to change the U.S. Forest Service. Join us for an outing with Forest Service Chief Mike Dombeck. The guy that spends a lifetime making sure there's fish out there ought to be catching them.
Well, you've got to stop and smell the roses, and I don't get to do that very often. It's one of those special days. Look at this one pull.
And it's all coming up this weekend right here. He grew up in the Chequamegon National Forest in northern Wisconsin, and today he's the 14th chief of the U.S. Forest Service. But Mike Dombeck is engaged in the fight of his life, a struggle to change the way the U.S. Forest Service does business. You'll meet him just ahead. Hello, I'm Tony Dean, inviting you to spend the next half hour with us as we continue another season of our award-winning tradition. Our show is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops, Fisher Boats, Mercury Marine, Lindy Little Joe Fishing Tackle, Wraparound Sunglasses by Eclipse, North Dakota Tourism Promotion, Vexilar Sonars, Abu Garcia Rods and Reels, Berkeley Line and Power Baits, and by these additional sponsors. Now stay where you're at for a half hour of great outdoor entertainment.
There's one.
Got him?
Got him. Look at him go. There's a little bit of weight at the end of this one, Tony.
I love it the way old fishing guides just handle the rod so well. Oh, hey, you got a good fish.
Yes. What else is in here besides walleyes? Is that a...
Well,
we'll
watching this one, if it's a walleye, it's a very good one. Let me grab
a walleye.
Net. Oh, yeah, nice fish. Nothing wrong with this.
Boy, look at how clear that water is.
I'll let you bring him up again. Nice walleye.
Hey, I like that. That is what it's all about.
Got a guest today, a guy I've known for a number of years, who is a fisheries biologist. In fact, he has a PhD in fisheries. He's also the chief of the U.S. Forest Service, former fishing guide from the Chippewa Flowage in Wisconsin, Mike Dombeck. Stay where you're at. We'll be back.
Fisher boats are designed to perform and built to last, with spacious layouts and serious fishability in every boat. All welded aluminum hulls, hand-laid fiberglass, and rigid reinforced bow structures. Fisher boats, designed to perform and built to last. Choose from over 40 Fisher boats in our free brochure. Just call 1-800-226-FISHER now. The new Fenwick Techna AV rod. Hey, it's the lightest, most sensitive fishing rod I've ever used. And listen to this. Buy a Fenwick Techna AV rod and receive a free Magellan GPS. Take advantage of this unbelievable offer today at these Fenwick premium dealers.
Hi, I'm North Dakota Governor Ed Schaefer.
And I'm First Lady Nancy Schaefer, and we're going fishing.
We're fishing the big waters in North Dakota. The numbers of fish are up, and so are their sizes. So whether you're fishing Lake Sakakawea or Devil's Lake or any of our top-notch fishing waters, you won't be disappointed.
It's a great place to bring the whole family with lots to see and do. So come to North Dakota on your next big fishing trip.
We'll leave some big ones for you.
Sometimes a walleye lives in the darkest places where it's hard to get his attention, until now. Until the hatchet harness, a radical new spinner blade design that flashes with a strong chopping action for rod-thumping vibration. They see it, hear it, feel it. The hatchet harness, a radical new spinner design.
The new hatchet harness, it really nails the walleyes. From Lindy Little Joe.
Oh, there's another one, Tony.
Mike, you have the hot hand today. And that's as it should be. I mean, a guy that spends a lifetime making sure there's fish out there ought to be catching them.
Well, you've got to stop and smell the roses, and I don't get to do that very often. It's one of those special days. Look at this one pull.
They're tough fish. Oh, another nice walleye. Boy, those are, you know, you want to eat walleyes, those are just absolutely the perfect size. There you go. I think the reason you're doing so well is you get to fish more. I spend all my time netting. So.
And I appreciate that, Tony. Look at this fish. Isn't this a nice one?
I'm going to quit fishing and start watching. You're doing something I'm not.
It's late June, and we're fishing the Owyhee tailwaters at Pierre, South Dakota on the Missouri River. And for Mike Dombeck, a rare opportunity to do something that he once did for a living when he was a youngster growing up in the forested lake country of Sawyer County, Wisconsin.
Well, there were really only a couple of things a kid could do there at that time, and you could work in the woods and cut pulp, and some springs we did cut and peel aspen, but the other opportunity was guiding with the old fishing lodges and the resorts there. And Moose Lake at one time had 9 resorts when I was growing up there, and all you had to do after fighting the mosquitoes and the wood ticks and the black flies, working in the woods, is get out on those big beautiful lakes in the summertime and have the breeze blow all the bugs away. You knew what you wanted to do, and I spent 11 years guiding, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, there's still people that I hear from, and it's been over 20 years since I guided, that you just make very, very good friends fishing.
There's one, Mike.
Hey, Tony, I like that. Look at that beautiful clear water.
That one,
nice
I think,
walleye.
goes back. Oh. There we are.
Tony, I'm really glad you broke the ice.
Never go head-to-head with a guy with a PhD in fisheries. They know the territory.
However, during his first year as Forest Service chief, Mike Dombeck, a soft-spoken former fishing guide and biologist, has made more than his share of powerful enemies. Among them, Congresswoman Helen Chenoweth, Senator Frank Murkowski, Senator Larry Craig, and Congressman Don Young. They were enraged when Dombeck called for a small road-building moratorium in early 1998, and they and other powerful Western elected officials want timber harvest to go up, not down, and they want Dombeck's head on a platter.
Obviously, you got to deal with all kinds of conflicting interests. You've got timber companies that are obviously interested in logging. You've got fishermen and hunters who are demanding high-quality outdoor recreation. You have environmental groups whose goals may differ completely from those of the 2 former groups I mentioned. How do you go about keeping all those balls in the air and juggling it and coming out with a comprehensive policy that will be accepted by most of the American people?
Tony, I think we get there by working with people. It was just a wonderful experience to meet with all of the interest groups here in South Dakota, to hear the viewpoints of the ranchers, the recreationists, the fishermen, the hunters, the miners, and the loggers. And there's something that we have in common that I think we have to focus on, and that's if the land is in good shape, everybody benefits. It's in nobody's best interest to have degraded watersheds, to have poor water quality. And it's more than a quality of life issue, it's also an issue of economics, of sustainability, of families being able to live in these rural communities and make a living generation after generation. And it's about soil, it's about water, it's about healthy forests, it's about fish and wildlife habitat, it's about taking care of our native species of plants. We've got a significant problem in the United States with noxious weeds and invasive exotic species. And I believe that if we come at this in a positive way and realize that there's not enough for everybody to have all of what they want, that we have to share the resource. But the bottom line is to work within the limits of the land, because when we work within the limits of the land, we maintain options for the future. And isn't that what stewardship is all about taking care of the resource, so our kids and their kids will have the same opportunities, the same options, and be able to enjoy the outdoors like we're doing right now.
In addition to dealing with all the conflicting interests, Mike Dombeck must also deal with his own employees. And based on our observations, they're split between an old guard that remains faithful to timber and livestock interests, and the rest who seem willing to accept the changes. Of all the issues Dombeck has raised, few have more resembled a minefield than the seemingly innocuous call for a moratorium on building new roads. Dombeck argues that it makes little sense to build new roads when the agency lacks the budget to maintain roads that already exist.
We have 380,000 miles of roads in the National Forest System, and there's so little support for that program, and yet I grew up on Forest Service Road 164 in the Chequamegon National Forest, and today it's blacktop, it's a bus route, it's a mail route, and I felt it was important that we redefine the roads program, because in the eyes of the American public, roads equal logging, equal subsidy, equal sedimentation, equal stream damage, equal bad. And the fact is, roads are an important part of the infrastructure of rural America. It's the way hunters and fishermen get to the places that we go, and for this reason, I thought it was really important that we, not only for social reasons, but also scientific reasons, really get the roads program back in the shape of the Forest Service.
And Dombeck carried through. In February of '99, the administration imposed a freeze on road building in 33 million acres of federal forests, although it exempted large areas, including most of the Northwest and the largest forest in Alaska. And predictably, the action brought immediate criticism from the timber industry. But just as predictably, howls from environmental groups who complained that too many areas were exempted. And while Trout Unlimited also thought the Northwest should have been included, they were more supportive. They wrote, "Simply put, many roads in the national forests are killing trout and salmon. Excessive mud and soil carried in runoff from unimproved Forest Service lands and roads is among the worst sources of non-point pollution on federal lands." Over the past 5 years, there's been a 25% increase in usage of Forest Service lands by fishermen.
We've got more recreation use on the National Forest of any other single entity in the United States. Very important to the people, and we've just got to make investments in land and make sure that we provide the American public with the opportunities to enjoy the outdoors.
In fact, 10% of all inland fishing in the United States now takes place on the 130,000 miles of fishable streams and 2.8 million acres of lakes, ponds, and reservoirs on lands managed by the Forest Service.
I know many of our viewers, fishermen, hunters, depend on the public lands, whether it's the timber country that your agency oversees or the national grasslands or what have you. What do you see in the future? What is your vision, your goal, as the direction this agency will be taking?
There are really some profound social changes that are occurring and have been occurring and will continue to occur in the United States, Tony, and that's that the increased recreation use and the value of public lands. Not many people realize that the national forests provide more recreation for America than the national parks do. We have some 865 million recreation visitor days on the National Forest System, and expect that to increase to 1 billion within the next decade. So we are coming out of a logging era, the big timber era of the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and you can just see this shift occurring as people now valuing national forests and national grasslands for much broader uses than we did just a few decades ago.
Some of the world's finest waterfall hunting, geese and ducks, plus great pheasant hunting, fabulous walleye fishing, tackle busting northern pike, and an undiscovered smallmouth bass fishery. You'll find it all in South Dakota's glacial lakes and prairie region. Unspoiled outdoor recreation in an uncrowded atmosphere. Call toll-free 1-800-244-8860 for the free 72-page hunting, fishing, and visitor's guide.
Welcome to the Trails at Oahe, here on the peninsula between Spring and Cow Creeks. Simply the most beautiful place to live or play on Lake Oahe. The driving range is scheduled to open in May. Championship golf starts in July of 1999. Lots overlooking the golf course, as well as townhouses to lease or buy, are available right now. To learn more, call this toll-free number, 888-311-OAHE. Call now.
Mercury with electronic fuel injection. It's a wolf among sheep.
From north to south, east to west, from upland birds to big walleyes and big Canadas over the decoys. Nestled around Lake Sakakawea, one of America's great fisheries, with the Audubon National Wildlife Refuge and hundreds of thousands of geese in the fall. Call this toll-free number now, 1-877-4U2-FISH. You'll get a free outdoor vacation packet from Sakakawea Country, McLean County, North Dakota.
It's here at last, a wraparound polarized clip-on for those who wear prescription eyeglasses. The wrap-on eliminates annoying side and back glare. It's available in flip-up or slip-on clip, plus the new yellow wrap-on. The new wrap-on lets me see under the surface, and it protects my eyes from ultraviolet light. The wrap-on, the new generation of clip-ons from Eclipse Sunglasses.
Hi, I'm Dale Earnhardt. When I'm not racing, I'm usually fishing, and Bass Pro Shops is the place I shop.
Be sure to visit one of our new superstores and call for your new spring catalog, filled with thousands of top-quality items to help you succeed in the outdoors.
And Johnny Morris and his folks always give me fast and friendly service.
Call 1-800-BASS-PRO for your free catalog now.
Got him. I got him, Tony. I think that's a good one.
I want to welcome you back. Mike Dombeck, the U.S. Forest Service Chief, with us today. We're fishing walleyes on the Missouri River at Pierre, South Dakota.
No, walleye.
No, it's a walleye.
It's a walleye.
Well, it's an E. That might be eating size, Mike. I'll tell you in a second here. Yep, that'll make her.
He did eat it, too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. There you go, sir.
Yeah, well, it's about time this afternoon here. I like that. I like the feel of that.
I don't blame you a bit.
That's what we're out here for.
When I first met you, Mike, you were serving as a special assistant to Cy Jamison, who was director of the BLM during the President Bush administration. For those years, you were growing up, eventually ending up in Washington. I know you worked for the Forest Service back in your early days, then the BLM, then you were acting director of the BLM. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think you would be heading the United States Forest Service?
I've got to admit, Tony, never in my wildest dreams did I ever believe I'd have a job like this, but I'm an optimist, and the thing that's really neat about resource management is if you look at the bounty that we have in this country, the 191 million acres of national forests and grasslands that belong to everybody. And where else can you be born? In what other developed country can you be born in and be the automatic owner of a few acres of land? Then if you add the 270 million acres of BLM lands, the millions of acres of national parks and wildlife refuges, we've got a tremendous heritage in this country that all sportsmen should be proud of.
America's public lands have traditionally been managed under the multiple use concept. That includes carefully regulated grazing, which most agree is a proper use of public lands, or mining, which also done properly is another proper use of the lands. Logging is perhaps the major extractive use of much of the Forest Service holdings, and yet properly managed, each of these uses is proper and consistent with good management of lands that belong to all the people of the United States. Yet the 104th Congress set out on a different course. Their goal was to rewrite America's environmental laws and change the management of public lands to favor extractive industries. For example, the livestock grazing legislation, introduced in 1995, would have given livestock interests priority over all other multiple uses. And sportsmen, conservation groups, and environmentalists united to successfully beat back this effort to take over America's public lands. They were joined by fishing and hunting trade organizations, such as the American Sport Fishing Association and the Wildlife Management Institute. But it was sportsmen on a local level who waged the most successful battles, doing so in every corner of America. And they were joined by a growing number of daily newspapers, who, after reading the legislation, opposed it. The Dominici bill ultimately died, as did another look-alike introduced in 1997 by Oregon Congressman Smith. Meanwhile, recreation on public lands had already replaced mining, timber, and grazing as the most important economic use of public lands, something even the Wall Street Journal recognized. Western public lands hold the majority of our mule deer and antelope herds, and through them flow numerous trout streams. Attaining balance between numerous competing interests is a major focus for Chief Mike Dombeck.
You seem to be signaling a change. I mean, I sense that your agency is heading much more in the direction of recognizing all these other resources our public lands have.
I had the feeling when I took this job about a year and a half ago, Tony, that nobody was satisfied with the Forest Service. Not the administration, not the Congress, and not the employees. And there were those that had said that, you know, the Forest Service was an agency that had lost its way. And as I met with the leadership of the agency, our many regional foresters and research directors, and talked to a lot of people the first few months on the job, I really think the Forest Service needed to return to its roots. And if you look back and think about the legislation that was passed in 1891 and the Organic Administration Act of 1897, and then the Weeks Act of 1911 that gave us the authority to purchase land in the east that became our Eastern National Forest. It all revolved around watersheds and watershed protection. And then if you think about the condition of the landscape in the Appalachians, in the home country where I grew up, and the forests had basically been devastated. There was water and watershed protection. And what we've done is we're rebuilding our topsoils and we're restoring our watersheds. And as I look to craft an agenda to try to focus the Forest Service, it really wasn't difficult at all. Water and watershed restoration. In fact, I had a individual that I visited with last week that retired from the Forest Service in 1976, a forester by the name of Jay Craven. He took me to the airport, and I said, "Jay, how do you think I'm doing?" And Jay said, "If you take care of the soil and the water, everything else will be okay."
Most Americans probably agree with Mike Dombeck's vision of public lands and their values. But most political observers say affecting that change won't be easy, because there are entrenched special interests who have the ear of influential senators and congressmen, especially from the western states, who are expected to stymie any effort toward change. Jack Ward Thomas served as Forest Service chief just prior to Mike Dombeck. He resigned after 3 years, and he certainly knows the battles Dombeck will face. But he has good advice for all those who care about America's public lands.
In a democracy, issues are settled by the majority of the minority that cares about the particular issue. Now, in terms of the public lands, I would suspect half the American people don't even know we have any. And then those who know, there's some percentage that really care. So it doesn't take a lot of people to sway these issues. For example, if you're looking at the question about public land grazing, there's less than 10,000 permittees. 10,000 people are able to move the Congress of the United States. Surely 30 or 40,000 people, which is not very many, can be equally effective in addressing that.
Oh, there's one, Tony.
Way to go, Mike. Walleye?
I think it's a walleye.
Oh, and it's a nice walleye.
It is a walleye.
Let me grab the net here.
You know, the thing this reminds me of is I grew up doing this. and I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Nice going.
Isn't that a beautiful fish?
Way to go.
Well, we'll just put them in the live well here.
Everything you ever wanted to know about fishing Lakes Oahe and Sharp is in this great magazine, and we'd like to send it to you free. Call this toll-free number, 800-962-2034. We'll send it right out to you. Pier offers spacious shaded campgrounds, outstanding fishing, great hunting, water sports, and it's a great place to do business. Call now for your free Lake Sharp Lake Oahe magazine, 1-800-962-2034.
On North Dakota's Devil's Lake, the fishing is fabulous. And in the autumn, several 100,000 waterfowl make a stop here. During winter, Devil's Lake is a great perch lake with a booming population, setting the stage for another great year of winter fishing. To learn more, including lodging and restaurant accommodations, call the Devil's Lake, North Dakota Tourism Office. Their number is 1-800-233-8048.
The new Fenwick Techna AV rod. Hey, it's the lightest, most sensitive fishing rod I've ever used. And listen to this. Buy a Fenwick Techna AV rod and receive a free Magellan GPS. Take advantage of this unbelievable offer today at these Fenwick Premium dealers.
Hey, watch this. This is my jig, and there's my walleye. The Vexilar FL8. Unbelievable.
The smile says it all. Great fishing on Lake Oahe for walleyes and northern pike. John Heights Cherokee Charters, serving anglers with honest professional guide service. Call toll-free 1-800-456-1168.
Up, there's one, Mike.
Looks good, Tony. That's what we came here for.
I just hate this.
Nice walleye.
That's definitely one for the frying pan. Yes, it is. I want to thank Mike Dombeck. You know, to those who probably stand in the way of the good conservation practices that Mike is putting in place on the Forest Service lands across America, I just want to remind you that this guy spent 9 years guiding muskie fishermen. And if you know anything about muskies, that's fish 10,000 casts, and to catch them successfully, you got to be stubborn, and you got to be patient, and you got to be resolute, and you sure got to be smarter than a muskie. Mike Dombeck is all of those. I'm Tony Dean. Thanks for being with us.